helping make money from it?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, I think the most money I made off of the competition was just like the prize from IGF. But
Gotcha. And I suppose, I mean, it's all very indirect because it gets
Yeah.
you, sort of gets your name in articles. And
yeah, and I mean, all this competition stuff is all we get the deal that I'm currently living off of right now. So.
Right.
So it's a nice feeling because then you don't really have to worry about how you're going to get enough money to pay rent next month. You can just make your game, and that's how you're making money. So it's sort of like you get to do what you want to do and get paid, so you don't have to spend time working at KFC or McDonald's flipping burgers and chickens.
And Steph, I mean, your experience has been kind of similar, I think.
Yeah. So I'm not very good with money. Basically, like I'm not really like projecting. Oh, if I like keep doing this in 5 years, I'll be here. I have actually no idea. And but I'm pretty small. It's just me. I just need to pay myself. I don't have I don't have any dependencies like any house to pay or kids or so it's just working out. I'm just living off the tail of Alice, and it just works. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, it is. Although I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about your experiences developing for the iOS, because that's much discussed. Is there anything that you have to add to that conversation in terms of?
We know that the market is very saturated, right? It's very hard to get on the iPhone market. I guess I got Alice in a time that it wasn't like too crazy. I didn't get it like when it was like absolute gold mine, right? Like making a coffee made when you were in there. But I got to the point where I don't know, I really got enough visibility. It wasn't too saturated, which I think the iPad is at that point right now. It's actually, I think it's kind of a gold mine right now, and I think it's going to stay there for a while because I don't think people are realizing that it's a really great market. So maybe I shouldn't be saying this.
Rob, can you tell us about your experience?
Obviously, the success of Cox has been amazing. Winning $100,000 was why for the competition. I didn't even realize that was the prize. So when it came in, it came suddenly and a little unexpectedly, very unexpectedly, and it was great. In retrospect, though, my team. I'm the only full-time employee at Lazy 8 Studios, but I have an artist. He's on Equity. I have a sound designer who chose specifically not to work for Equity. And I really wish that we had had more discussion beforehand about if we're going to get a big sum of money, what are we going to do with it? Because it actually created a lot of friction. Now again, these are to have such problems. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with all my money. I think that the lesson is if you sort these things out in advance and get everybody on board, you can avoid friction in the long run. Then there was nothing really bad happened or anything, but it definitely could have been more friction if we had just put some money in beforehand. So some of the things that I do with money, I keep my money very separate from my partner's money because I need to know if my business is succeeding. So managing your money is, I think it's important to do to really keep a feel for where you're at as a developer.
But I get the sense that you did do a lot of planning about the business side of the venture.
I did. I'm not great at business stuff. This is one of the things that just, covering the top of the panel, what happened after launch. I think that for developers that are out there that are getting ready to get their games out, I think the lesson that I learned is that you sort of have this idea in your head that you're going to launch, and then money's going to come in, and you just sit back and let it all happen. And it's not like that at all. There's so much code maintenance and bug reporting and doing your own advertising and marketing and getting keys to reviewers. And if you're on the iPhone, well, you only get 50 keys, so you have to prioritize your reviewers and figure out who's going to get a key and who isn't, and figure out what to do with the other people, and if you're going to pay for their keys. And I know it sounds like complaining about little things, but the thing is, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot more time than you expect it's going to take. It's
wearing
hard.
all of those different hats, because you're also very active, I get the sense, in sort of the marketing PR end of things, promoting COGS, getting it out there.
I am, but then again, when Shalingo came to me and said, "Hey, like, how do you want this for iPad and iPhone?" I said, "Please, that's not what I'm good at." So it's about finding out what you are good at, what you aren't good at, and letting somebody else do something else that they're good at, that they enjoy, so that you can be freed up to do what you enjoy, which is game design.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Delegation, I think, is a still undervalued kind of ability in our world. Well, cool. Thanks for speaking candidly about that, guys. Now I want to ask you about the worst thing that happened to you this year as a game designer. Let's say I wouldn't want to be asked that question outside of the game design context. Tyler, when you answered this question, your answer made me laugh.
Yeah, just dealing with lawyers is pretty horrible. It's really annoying.
Which I want you to qualify, because I've got lots of good friends who are lawyers, who are very nice people. But I
Don't sue me.
yeah, well, we all hope for that. But I mean, it's just you're a game maker. You know, you kind of dealt with your own business, your own game making for a long time, and then suddenly you have to kind of step up to bat and set up a company. And I think it's challenging for a lot of people. Can you tell us, like, you found your lawyer through a recommendation through a friend, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I assume it's just the time of having to go through the dry work that's difficult.
The words the lawyers use in their contracts aren't English. It's not. It's just they say the same thing. They capitalize words in the middle of a sentence that you don't know why they're capitalized or anything like that. It's weird. And the worst.
But that's why you've got to hire a lawyer. So.
Yeah, that's why you have to hire a lawyer, because you get a contract like this and you don't know what it says. You have to get a lawyer, and they'll reply back, explaining it the same way, the same sort of weird terminology that you've not heard of before. And then you also have to deal with the fact that, at least since I'm starting up a company and there's somebody, it's not just me at the company, there's somebody else there too. It's really difficult to try to find a lawyer who will understand the fact that we want to make games. We don't want to spend 5 months or whatever discussing intricacies of companies sharing royalties and IPs. We just want to make a game and get it out there and get the money for it. And it's not that simple at all. And the lawyers don't want to make it simple.
And of course, like, the world of indie games is this brand new world, and I think that many people just on the legal side don't quite know how to approach it. I think it's an amazing opportunity for attorneys and lawyers who are interested in this world, even at all, to kind of start to figure out how to work with indie game makers to help them do what they do well, and to take care of the headaches. I want to hear a little bit from everyone, I think, about this question, because it's a juicy one. Dan, what was the worst thing that happened to you this year?
I guess, it's less a single event than, I don't know if there's anybody else from the UK here, but the UK is basically bankrupt.
When did that happen? Is the Queen run out of money?
Happening over the last 2 years, but it's kind of all official now. So literally, the money is gone. There is no money left in the UK. We're practically exchanging vegetables and things like that. Yeah, we should just basically just get bored and find the country. So we spent a year kind of talking to, I was sitting there with, managing directors of major developers saying we're going to go into partnership, we were looking kind of like a part private, part public sector partnership to shoulder us to do more experimental games. They go, yeah, fantastic, and then we'd look on Twitter and they'd close one of their studios, and we walked away from them, went to another one, and it's just this chain of studio closures. Public subsidy has basically evaporated almost 100%. The Arts Council's been slashed by over half. The Research Council's been slashed by nearly a half. So the kind of all those things have just been literally, it's been kind of like, like Uncharted, where you're running along and the ground is just running ahead. But there's a really good opportunity there, because it has let us be able to get back to these funds and say, traditionally you have no idea how to work with games. You barely, something like the Arts Humanities Research Council, you're dealing with medieval literature scholars saying they're going to games, well, it's got a plug attached to it, we don't want to fund it. But we've been able to go back and say, well, you're screwed, basically. You got no money, but we can, because the way games work, because they're such a populous medium, because people are used to this brilliant mini games, that the market of games, as gamers, we like to pay for innovation. We expect to pay for it, and we enjoy paying for innovation. Now, for sort of stuff which has been traditionally seen as high risk, suddenly there's a massive opportunity out of this crisis coming out, just saying, well, we actually have a medium where the target market will throw money at you for taking risks, as opposed to it being a kind of a dirty subject. So,
Right.
although it's been a really, really, really hard year, I think we're kind of settling on a way to kind of come out of that. But it's been really, really hard. And we've had stuff like we've had a very large, very, very large project kind of got killed by lawyers for us as well, arguing over terminology, arguing over 2 words. The contract killed nearly £4 million worth of project. 2 words. There's nothing you can do about that, you know, and that's one of the problems we have, like, because I work for a university, and higher education lawyers and private sector lawyers.
Well, thanks for discussing it so candidly, because you know, I mean, China's tough for everyone in the world right now, and I know that it'll impact a lot of people in this room. So it's good to get the solidarity. I'm going to skip past you, Rob, because you actually told us about to have such problems.
Yeah.
We'll jump to Andre.
For us, it was definitely getting cold shoulder from all the industry execs. So like last year at IndieCade, we got a lot of traffic, and everyone was like, "Oh, we love the game, like talk to us, email us, all this stuff." And going off what I was saying earlier, we were so motivated to the company started. Hit that, we started emailing these people, and just no reply, just silence. And so we're sitting there on all these hopes that we had after IndieCade with no leads. And so that was kind of like the hardest part. That lasted for a few months before we finally got the code name deal and started that process.
And I feel for you, because I mean, like, I've been in the mainstream console games business for a long time, so lots of my friends have kind of come from the arcade game world, and I know how, the kind of arcade business was once a massive business, and it kind of died away, and so, and it was sad to hear that you weren't able to find some big
we knew arcades were dead, but we kind of were hoping that someone would at least take a chance.
Although, of course, with things happening like Baby Castles, which is, for those of you who don't know, Baby Castles is a project in New York. It started in Queens, and they're launching it in a Manhattan location between now and the holidays. And it's a DIY video game arcade. And it kind of comes from like the indie illustration, the indie game scene. It's this tremendously exciting, punky project in kind of an abandoned storefront space. I'm planning to go out, fly out to New York and check it out. If any of you are in New York between now and the holidays, you really should go along. They're doing all kinds of awesome stuff. They're putting on Mark Essen's game, Nidhogg there, amongst a bunch of other cool stuff. So maybe Mike will see mine about that. And then, Steph, you had a good tale from the trenches for us to do with like finishing Ellis and.
Yeah, but now listening to him talk, it was I realized that the worst thing was actually realizing that there's a maintenance cost after the game. Yeah, but that you think, hey, I'm gonna live, this time, and I'm gonna make this number of games. And when you realize that the maintenance cost behind the game,
In
the
terms
number
of
of games you can make is diminishes.
Oh, so you thought you were going to be done at the end of the project, and then 100% of your time would be on the next.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've worked a lot on Ellis after the last update, and I don't know why. I don't even really know what I was doing, but I was just like dragged into it.
But that is a really important comment, because we're feeling that shift as well. Supporting.
What I've been spending all this time on.
And the other thing was time management during Ellis. I realized that during the 5 months that I was building Ellis, I was convinced that I was 2 weeks away from finishing it. Which, it kept me motivated, I'm only 2 weeks away, but, and I thought that I would learn to better manage that stuff, but I haven't changed at all. That was kind of better.
It's tough though, especially when you're doing something like that